So, like in your recent essays, you've been mentioning how the necessity of celibacy, both like practical and categorical. So, if say somebody, a householder, so somebody who doesn't live in the monastery, doesn't live in the environment that's more conducive for that, but wants to actually undertake the 8 precepts, undertake the practice of celibacy in order to develop the right view, what would be the some like practical considerations for them as to like how to increase chances of their success really, because obviously in the world out there there's everything is about sensuality, everything is pointing towards sensuality. So how would a person go about in that environment? What would be the necessary practical things for them to do, consider, uphold, and so on, so that they can actually develop those precepts?
Thing is, one thing that's very commonly mentioned in the suttas is that the quality of your friendships has a very direct impact on the qualities that you have in your mind. So the people that you're hanging out with, if those people have sensual values, even if you try to cultivate the opposite values, by default, the current is taking you in the opposite direction. So you want to be careful that you're minimizing contact with people who value sensuality, who would find fault with you for trying to practice the Dhamma. You can't completely sometimes remove those people from your life, but if you're actively maintaining friendships with them, not just like, oh, I have to talk to him because he's my coworker or something. You're actively maintaining relationship with them, and you are, by that token, you're giving their opinions weight. So it's going to influence your mind, going to kind of taint your views with these wrong emphases. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, you want to recognize, well, even if other people are doing whatever they might be doing, that doesn't absolve you from your responsibility. So as there's that sutta where the Buddha said, others will be killing, here we will not be killing. Others will be stealing, here we will not be stealing. So you certainly shouldn't expect your environment to be perfectly conducive. That like, oh, because everybody around me is going the same direction, that's why I can do it. More often than not, that will not be the case. Even in the monastery, for that matter, you will not find everyone being 100% on the same page. So you have to feel that weight of, yeah, like I could do the opposite. I could choose to give in to sensuality. I could choose to be careless, but then I will be paying the price for that. It's not like the weight of tradition or the weight of a group that's making you do it. If it is, then your determination will crack as soon as those external factors are compromised.
Mm-hmm. Any other practical?
Yeah, well, another thing to keep in mind is you might have to, depending on how proliferated you've been, you might have to take it gradually. So, when we talk about celibacy is necessary, you have to completely give up sensuality, that should be your value, that should be your goal. But you want to recognize that if you try to take that all of a sudden too much all at once, you might end up, slingshotting back into your old habits because it was just too much for you to bear. So you want to keep that as your goal. You want to feel the inadequacy of the remaining sensual habits that you might have. You want to avoid shifting the goalpost and trying to justify them because I'm a lay person, it's fine or something. But then at the same time, you want to work towards it gradually. So if you haven't been keeping the 5 precepts, then start with that. If you have been keeping the 5 precepts already, then start building it up. Take more, start removing sensual indulgences that you know are completely unnecessary and you just give in to them out of weakness. Take on the 8 precepts on occasion, like on the Uposatha, and then work towards making that your permanent mode of being, because it's about seeing again, it's you shouldn't see it just like, oh, because this is a requirement on that theoretical level. You should start feeling yourself the peril of being still involved in the essential domain.
How does one do that? Say, for example, a person is not associating with bad friends, is paying attention to their environment in the sense of like as much as of an input as they have, they're exercising that, so they're not carelessly going into the sight, sound, smell, taste, touches unless they have to, minimizing exposure to that. When the pressures get too much, people still might be breaking the precepts even without the external prompts and so on. So how would one train in that to not fail there and to obviously increase the restraint without, as you said, kind of slingshotting back? So how would you those values that you talk about, the danger, that it's dangerous for me, engaging with it, not just kind of the secondary dangers and warnings, how can they directly begin to see that?
Well, the first thing is you might be tempted to not want to feel regret, not want to feel shame when you do something unwholesome and you give into sensuality. You might, like, that's exactly when people resort to the views of, oh, well, you're a lay person, it's not a big deal. It's not
Yeah,
a coincidence.
I'm absolved from
Exactly.
responsibility for this.
It's not a coincidence. It's because you don't want to feel the weight that comes when you see, oh, I had this goal and I actually walked against it. So the first thing is, like, you will not be able to properly develop that value if you don't want to feel ashamed, because that shame is the symptom of the value being maintained. The shame is what tells you, like, oh, I'm actually maintaining sight of what I should have done. So
not deny it.
Exactly. So don't try to push it away, because, as the Buddha himself said, fear of wrongdoing is one of the basic faculties on the path, on the same level as mindfulness, samadhi. So if you try to deny that, that's exactly how you won't have that, you won't be developing that internal criteria. That, for example, the sotapanna is what would be driving them to make further progress. Like, even if they might, as sometimes happen in the suttas, get careless, the fact is they wouldn't be able to cover up that shame. That they know this is against the path, this is causing me harm, taking me, because the harm, the danger of that whole thing that the suttas describe has to be seen internally.
So yeah, they wouldn't be able to cover up the shame, and consequently they would not be able to develop further wrong views that are used to make them cope, to make them justify, to kind of absolve them from the weight of those actions.
Yeah, because covering up the shame, you're covering up the first kind of gateway to recognizing the danger.
Or by not allowing it to come up, I guess.
Yeah.
By saying, oh, this doesn't apply to me. This requirement doesn't apply to me. Because otherwise you just, it would feel too unpleasant.
Right, because, it's not that even that you have to fabricate the shame. You would see that it would be there on its own just by maintaining the perspective, this is the goal. Shame is there automatically if you contradict it. So it's not even that you have to work yourself up. You abstain from wearing away the value of withdrawal from sensuality. You will feel shame whenever you...
Okay, so if somebody's not denying the shame, so they're giving the precepts or training in them, not associating with bad friends, exercising their input as much as they can in the suitable environment, not denying shame when it arises. Is there something more? Is there any other things they can do?
Well,
in terms of that danger, sensuality, values?
You have to reflect on it frequently, for sure. Like,
give me some examples.
Well,
how would one reflect about it?
As the Buddha described, those basic reflections that everybody, whether layman or gone forth, should cultivate. That you're liable to things dear to you being taken away. You're liable to things not dear to you, to being exposed to things not dear to you. You're liable to whatever attachment you cultivate, you will have to experience the pain of that being
So
taken
it
away.
sounds like all those reflections have that like a personal thread to them. So any other example you could give of such reflections that's not just phrases, stock phrases from the suttas?
Yeah, you have to make it concrete. So, do you have friends? Do you have family?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have children?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a spouse? Do you have possessions that make you wake up in the morning and feel enthusiastic about life? So you have to reflect in regard to those being liable to destruction, not just abstractly like, oh yeah, I will lose what is dear to me.
But how will that reveal the danger of essentiality? I mean, I might reflect and say, I'm going to lose this in 10 days, but until then I can enjoy it.
Well, but what's going to happen if you were cultivating the light for something and then you lose it?
But if I'm ready to lose it, saying 10 days, it's going away, I can't stop it, happened before, I'll be alright, but I'll enjoy it in the meantime.
But if you're ready to lose it, then why are you engaging in it now?
Well, because it provides pleasure, factual pleasure.
But
it's factually agreeable. So
Yeah.
why would I just waste 9 days of enjoying it?
Well, but that's the thing. Like, if you're honest with yourself, you'll see presence of the light means automatically liability to pain when that thing is taken away. It's not a matter of then that the pain will come. Right now, just by on account of having the light, it's like hanging from a thread. You're elevated hanging from a thread, and when that thread breaks, you'll have
but
to
until
fall.
it breaks, I can enjoy it.
Yeah, but if you came
If
down,
the danger is when the thing breaks or changes, until then, I'll factually enjoy that happiness.
well, no, the danger is that you're hanging from a thread. So if instead of trying to come down from that thread, you keep enjoying what's up there, or keep enjoying the fruits at the top of the tree, as the Buddha said in that simile, then you can't be coming down at the same time, so that when the tree falls, you won't suffer. So you if you enjoy it, you're postponing saving yourself from the danger that's going to happen.
But again, in the example I gave, it's like in plenty of instances, a person is willing or able, and the mind is not necessarily even upset or bothered much by losing certain things, which kind of then almost like follows, the conclusion follows, so I can enjoy them until then because I'm ready to give them up, so why wouldn't I enjoy them? What's the danger of that?
Well, but
because often that's kind of the point. It's like, okay, the big attachments in this, I can see the danger of that, but I don't see any harm in tasting this, touching that. I'm not attached to it. And factually, like it's simply not on that level of any attachment that you like. Oh, I'll lose sleep over this. Yet you still enjoy it. And according to suttas, there's still danger in those things. So where's the mistake there?
So we're still saying sensual things, not just
sensual, right. Of course, yeah.
Well,
like sensuality in moderation. Think of it like that.
Right,
so it's still sensual.
Right.
So, but you kind of prevent yourself from getting too far with it, because that would be like one of the probably main things, practically speaking, for people. Like you might tailor your environment, set things up rightly, but then there's going to be these things that are obviously not on that like a heavy level. They are still sensual, and it's like there's absolutely nothing obviously dangerous about it. So what is that person missing?
Well, if you allow delight in pleasures of the senses, you might be fine with those specific sense objects being taken away. But if you ask yourself honestly, will I be fine if I lose my sight, if I go blind, if I go deaf?
Right.
Will I be fine with that? And then you realize, well, all of these things, enjoying all of these things implies taking for granted, taking as safe, that situation of being healthy, of being able to perceive these things.
Yeah, so basically, okay, so that's the bigger picture they're missing out on.
Yeah.
That's the connection, which is like you might factually be able to handle a lot of engagement with sensuality because you don't have children, you don't have dependents, you don't have burden that would have become obvious through the years and so on, but you do carry the burden of, well, being intoxicated with your senses, with your health, taking it for
With
granted.
youth, yeah, with
So
life.
every time you find joy in anything sensual, that's what the reflection needs to, like, basically, as we said, you need to make it personal. So how these impersonal sight, sound, smell, taste, touches that I can factually handle if I engage with, well, how do I make that personal as well? You can't make sight, sound, smell, taste, touches personal because, again, they're irrelevant and more often than not. But what you can then make personal is, okay, so how would I engage with those objects? What is the necessary basis for any engagement? Oh, it's the senses, it's the sights, it's the eyes, which means the implicit taking for granted of that basis is there. And now you start saying, oh, but if that were to change, if that were to go away, if that were to be lost or get sick, I would not be indifferent even towards these seemingly indifferent sight, sound, smell, taste, touches. So, in other words, if you think you can handle sensuality, to the extent you think you can handle it, to that extent you haven't taken it personally enough, the bigger picture. So that would be another contemplation. You could contemplate the obvious, as I said, attachments and dangers and things you fear, things you're anxious about. But then all these kind of secondary stuff that's kind of almost like neutral in and of itself, but you would still use it for enjoyment and the pleasure. It's like, well, you gotta also now work through the same line of reasoning and same level of reflection to include that into that personal framework.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you could, under some hypothetical circumstance, find a relatively safe set of external circumstances that it's not like really super likely to be taken away like a person who could just die. But that doesn't mean that you escaped the danger, because the tree that you're climbing on and the fruits that you're enjoying are fundamentally that level of your senses.
Yeah. So then the question is then what would be the practical avenues of such reflections, like themes. What themes?
Reflecting on death, for example.
Reflecting on death.
So, but yeah, I guess that too could become like an abstract just phrase that you repeat.
Yeah, that's the training. It's like to keep kind of, as it becomes abstract or dead, you have to make it alive.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Contemplation of death. You have to make it alive.
Yeah.
So any other practical ways?
Well, you will have things that you particularly are afraid of. So,
specific, idiosyncratic little kind of triggers, anxieties.
Yeah. So somebody may not care too much about getting sick, but they would very much resist the idea of getting old, for example.
So then the training of this reflection, it's really more like just learning how to uncover and make these connections between the two. Because obviously, well, the most obvious example is when somebody is healthy, they don't think about illness. And they're absolutely convinced, well, they'll handle it when it comes. Then when it comes, they regret their behavior and how they got sick in the first place. They wish they never did it. But then they recover and then
get
they
intoxicated again.
Yeah. So it's on the level of intoxication.
To this, getting to this point roughly, someone could quite easily have just removed the objects. Whereas now it's like, well, how do I remove my eyes? My dependent. So so obviously that's why we've brought up the idea of contemplation and reflection. But it's quite a shift of gears in terms of how to go about abandoning something.
Right, because you might maintain the momentum of like blaming specific things.
Yeah.
Whereas, of course it begins on that level, but you want to recognize there is just a thread of things being pleasant that you will never be able to get rid of. You will have to interact with something, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, that then could become essential for you. So if you don't take it on that level of my attitude towards the senses as tools to experience pleasure and move your restraint onto that level, then you're just never going to...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly... It would be like on the level of Silabata Paramasa, which is, for many monks, that's still the case, even when they live in the a lot more suitable environment.
Mm.
They still would not, and actually in many ways, without the right instruction, quote unquote suitable environment could just cover things up because it feels like you did the work by adjusting to the environment of restraint, but then making zero effort to start reflecting on and creating it, uncovering these connections between, because as I said, like, yeah, you might be, oh, I can handle this side, sound, smell, taste, touch, but you factually do know that you have anxieties and fears in regard to certain things, but you don't see the connection. You don't see the connection between your delight, your dependence on those sense objects for pleasure. You don't see the connection between that and the existing basis for these anxieties, for these fears, for these worries, for the hindrances. And that will not be magically revealed by itself or some special method. You have to be scraping that thing like deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to the like, of course. And then the danger becomes apparent. Like immediately seen, verifiable. Each time there is delight, there is means danger. Not like I have to work for the connection.
Yeah, because you might just associate these very specific things. Okay, these are sensuality. And then I've met people who factually thought that just by being monks, they were already withdrawn from sensuality. Failing to see that it's that relationship with your senses, not just, oh, I just changed this environment and I'm already safe.
Yeah, it's what we said before. So it's a good criteria is to, if you feel safe, is to ask yourself, if you're a monk, ask yourself, if I were to be forced to disrobe now and have the obvious external imperative that my uniform suggests removed, imperative to keep the precept, not engage in sensuality, be celibate, would I feel like be able to go back to those things? Or would I feel like, well, nothing would change? Doesn't matter what uniform I wear, internally the values remain completely aligned. And same as a householder. Like if I were to be forced to become a monk now, would I feel like at loss, in a great peril and danger because I lost the access to the possibility of sensuality? Or would my mind remain unbothered by it?
Yeah, when that expectation of other people holding you accountable, and that falls off, then you know.
Would you be able to hold yourself accountable?
Did I actually see the danger? Because you wouldn't need somebody to be watching you. So
or if say somebody discovers now that the suttas were actually written 300 years ago. Some guy just sat and wrote them down, and the Buddha never existed.
Exactly.
And this was all just a fabrication.
Would you still see?
Would you still continue in the same direction, or would you say, "Oh, I don't have to do any of this now"?